is our terrorism expert here at France 24, Wasim Nassar. Wasim, thanks for coming in, talking to us. I mean, do we still need to be careful, do you think, in calling this a terrorist attack at this stage, or can we call it a terrorist?
No, we can call it a terrorist attack because the French president qualified it as a terror attack, terror Islamist attack. Even he went even further in his qualification. But what we have to know, it's up to this point, there is no claim by any group, either the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, or other groups. We had many noise, if I may say so, yesterday on social media by what we can call as supporters of the jihadi group, but this doesn't mean there's a claim. And they even used hashtags with the Nice 06 to push their videos on Twitter or on other social media outlets. But up to this point, there's no official claim by any official media outlet of the Islamic State or another group, because you have to remember that this modus operandi, so hitting people with a car, Al-Qaeda called for it as late as 2010. The spokesperson of the Islamic State talked about it a few months ago. And we know, too, it's a fact that this modus operandi is used in Israel on very frequent basis. So I guess that we have to be careful to say who did it, but I guess that also we can say that it's a terror attack.
And that noise that you're talking about, presumably this was noise after the incident rather than before. But
yes.
I mean, presumably there had been noise during the day just because it is the 14 Juillet, it's the 14th of July,
Yes.
It's France's big national celebratory day.
Yes, of course. Nice was hit, I guess, because it was also the 14th of July. But now we don't have the details of what happened. We have the ID up to this point, but we don't know the real motives of the person who did it. We don't know in the name of whom he did it. If he was commanded from abroad, or did he do it and like a lone wolf, if I may say so. So many things have to be clarified in the upcoming hours. But we should also remember that Nice is one of the towns in France that exported one of the highest numbers of jihadis, either in the ranks of Al-Qaeda or of the Islamic State. We have to remember also that the first propaganda videos made against France were made by jihadis in the ranks of the Islamic State, who were from Nice. So all these elements are to be taken into consideration, even if, one more time, up to this point, we don't have any official claim by any of the media outlets of any group or another.
So it's not surprising then, in your view, that this has happened now outside of Paris?
No, it's not surprising because we knew, everybody who follows these issues knew that they will try to hit whenever they had the opportunity to do so. Even if it's Al-Qaeda or another group, they are opportunistic in the way they function, and terrorism is a mean. It's not an end by itself. So whenever they have the opportunity to hit hard, they'll do it. And today, if it's confirmed that it's a terror attack, when we get to know more about the attacker, it'll be one of the most deadly attacks done by one person on French soil. So all this is to be taken into consideration, because not only France, all European countries, all the countries that are involved today in the coalition, either against the Islamic State or even against Al-Qaeda in Northern Africa, are subject to be hit at one point or another by their own citizens, or at least by residents on their soil in the name of any group or another.
And not surprising as well, perhaps, that this has been carried out by a vehicle, because that's something as well which a lot of chatter had been about before this incident.
Yes, of course. Al-Qaeda, as I told you, called for this kind of modus operandi as far as 2010. And the spokesperson of the Islamic State did it a few months ago. And it's a modus operandi used in Israel, one more time, since many years, because it is easy. Unfortunately, it is easy. It's a very easy mean to make deadly attacks. It's easier than buying arms. It's easier than manufacturing or fabricating explosives. Anybody can rent a car or can rent a vehicle like this and run into people. It's the easiest way to make the most or the biggest damage possible, especially on a day like the 14th of July here in France.
Wasim, just finally, it feels like France, for the first time maybe, had just been breathing a sigh of relief. We've had these two large attacks here in Paris. We have other smaller incidents around the country as well. We've got over Euro 2016, which had obviously been such a headache for the authorities. And now, right at the start of the holiday season here in France, we have this attack, which obviously puts everybody right back on that high state of alert. The state of emergency has already been increased for another 3 months. I mean, it's so depressing, isn't it, to hear what's happened right as France was starting perhaps to try to recover.
Yes, but this is something that I guess France and all European countries and the United States and in every country involved in a war with the jihadi faction has to live with today. Because what's different, if we compare it with the terrorism of the 20th century, for example, it's today that it's their own citizens of these countries are attacking their own countries. This is new. So when you see eight between French people and people from Belgium blow themselves up in Paris here on the 13th of November, it is very serious. It is to be taken into consideration. When we see the Orlando attack that you mentioned earlier, it's an American citizen who killed other American citizens. Even if we go to Syria and to Iraq, we see that many of the executioners of Western hostages, either journalists or people involved in humanitarian actions in Syria and Iraq, are Westerners themselves. So that's what new today, and this is that the nature of the threat has completely changed. So big questions are to be raised. Is it really efficient to hit in Syria and Iraq to diminish terrorist threat here in European countries? So I guess that the whole way that terrorism was treated and apprehended should be changed in order to understand what's happening today.
Well, it seems